Imagine going to your trusted doctor only to find the state has cut off their funding, not because they're unqualified, but because of politics. That's exactly what's at stake in the Supreme Court's ruling in Medina versus Planned Parenthood South Atlantic. In a major decision on Planned Parenthood and Medicaid rights, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in favor of South Carolina, allowing the state to remove Planned Parenthood from its Medicaid program. The ruling deals a serious blow to efforts aimed at preserving access to reproductive health care through public funding. At the center of the case, whether Medicaid recipients have the right to sue the state when they're denied access to qualified medical providers, like Planned Parenthood. Justice Neil Gorsuch, writing for the conservative majority, overturned previous lower court rulings that had blocked South Carolina from defunding Planned Parenthood. According to the opinion, the federal law does not clearly grant individuals an enforceable right to choose their provider under Medicaid. In his words, laws like this one must give clear and unambiguous notice of an individually enforceable right, and he argued this law doesn't. But the dissent, led by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, sounded the alarm. She warned the decision would have tangible harm to real people, stripping vulnerable patients of their ability to challenge restrictions that could limit their access to care. She called the right to choose one's doctor a deeply personal freedom, especially when patients are most in need. So, how did we get here? This case began back in 2018, when South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster directed state officials to cut Planned Parenthood from Medicaid, labeling any provider of abortion services as unqualified even though federal law already bars public funds from being used for abortion procedures. Planned Parenthood South Atlantic and a Medicaid patient named Julie Edwards filed a lawsuit, arguing that the move violated their right under Medicaid to access any qualified and willing provider. They sued under an 1871 civil rights law, commonly used to challenge unlawful acts by state officials. Lower courts sided with the plaintiffs. A federal judge and later the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that Medicaid recipients could sue and that South Carolina's actions violated federal law, but the Supreme Court reversed those decisions. Gorsuch argued that allowing lawsuits like this could overwhelm state resources, forcing governments to focus on litigation instead of social services. He sided with South Carolina officials, who claimed this was not about healthcare access, but about the state's right to decide how to administer Medicaid funds. Supporters of the ruling, including South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, hailed it as a win for states' rights. In his words, this is about who runs South Carolina, our elected leaders or out-of-state activists and unelected judges. But critics, including Planned Parenthood's national president, saw it differently. She accused lawmakers of using defunding as part of a broader agenda to shut down Planned Parenthood and ban abortion nationwide. The case also highlights the continuing fallout from the Supreme Court's 2022 decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Since then, many Republican-led states, including South Carolina, have enacted strict abortion bans, some as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy. Planned Parenthood clinics in Charleston and Columbia continue to serve hundreds of Medicaid patients each year, offering everything from cancer screenings and pregnancy tests to contraception and routine exams. None of these services are abortion-related, yet these clinics now face the loss of critical funding. The ruling sets a powerful precedent. States may exclude certain providers from Medicaid even if those providers are otherwise qualified without giving patients a private right to sue. It narrows how Medicaid rights can be enforced, shifting more power to state governments and limiting judicial oversight. And for millions of patients, especially those in underserved communities, it raises urgent questions about who decides where they can get care, and whether politics should ever come between a patient and their doctor.